Welcome, Leslie. It is awesome to have you here in the channel for the Awaken Path. I'm so thrilled. And thank you for doing this and for taking the time to coming and play together.
Oh my goodness, Shakti, you have no idea how grateful I am to be here. Thank you for having me in your space.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, for you all, if you haven't yet met this amazing woman, let me tell you a few things about her. Leslie Tagorda helps seers, seekers, and change makers become the luminary leaders they were born to be. She is a multiracial Hawaiian born astrologer, designer, podcast host, author, and classical musician. And we want to know more about that. Leslie came to her calling when an identity crisis led her to her natal chart. And she is actually the author and creator of AstroBrand, the AstroBrand Method that revealed itself for her, combining her 20 plus years of brand development, entrepreneurship, and astrology. And today she shares the AstroBrand Method, and you'll hear more about this in this
Yeah.
chat to visionaries across the globe through astrology courses, one-on-one consultations, a membership, and of course the AstroBrand certification. And
Yes.
I am so blessed to be part of her tribe as a student receiving her gifted way of teaching. And that's why we're here today, because she has given me so much that I want to share what she brings to the world. So, Leslie, I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. There is so much I want to ask you and that we have to share.
Absolutely. I remember Shakti when you came into like our orbit. It's just so fun to like the people that come through and you just see the people who are so hungry and your face, like you'd come to every day to class and you'd be like, oh, you're like starstruck. You're like, my look at this, my Leo rising. I understand it. Oh, like all of this. And I love that energy because like we're star workers and we're called to this work.
Yeah. And yes, because being in the classes with you really gave me a level of understanding of my own mandala birth chart that
Yes.
was absolutely next level. And it opened up so many awarenesses. It was amazing. So I just want to say I would love to begin
Yeah.
to say this. So one thing I've learned is that for all of us, when we find our soul's calling, in a magical way, it blends everything we've been, even things you cannot think that can go together. And I know that this is true for you because you were a professional clarinetist, a designer, digital designer, web designer, and then you became a brand astrologer. And so, can you share a little bit of how all of that combined for you and how the magic happened for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you asked. And I'm going to take a little bit of like the scenic route because there's no quick story with this, right?
I
Like I
love
used to
it.
try to rush this and I used to be like so like afraid that people will be like overwhelmed by all the things. But like I'm tired of like feeling afraid that I'm going to overwhelm people. Like I
No,
just
please. Well,
tired
there's
of it.
room for all of your beauty and your shining light. So please bring it on for us.
Yeah. There's room for all of it, the multiplicity, because you and we have this like a lifelongs, like many lifetimes of experiences that we're currently weaving into like this beautiful multifaceted gem. And so, like you said, I was born in Hawaii, but I am not Hawaiian blooded. Okay, my mom is Filipino. No, my dad is Filipino. My mom is Jewish. My grandmother, my Filipino grandmother who raised me, she was a Catholic and she went into like Methodist. My stepdad who raised me, he was like Okinawan, like Buddhist. So like
Oh
I
my
had
gosh,
I know. Right? So like there's all these religions in my house. And so like having this idea of like, oh, what is that one pathway? And like, so while that was also beautiful, it was also very painful because whenever I went into my different families, and even though all my families most for the most part loved me, right? My Jewish grandfather refused to meet me until I was 5 years old because he was like he disowned my mom for marrying a Filipino man. my Filipino family who loved me, but they would still other me and call me the haole. In Hawaii, there's like a slang that describes a white person. And if you're watching on camera, like I'm clearly not white.
Like you couldn't fit here and you couldn't fit there. You couldn't fit anywhere, right?
Fit anywhere, right? And then I would go to my Okinawan family, which was like not blooded family, and they loved me so much, but it was like clear that I was not, we weren't related. And so I grew up just really trying to navigate all these spaces and learning to navigate these spaces. I really lost who I was, my sense of self and my sense of identity, because when I was the only person in a space that was like mixed identity, or like the only Jewish person, the only white person, the only Filipino person, the only like classical clarinetist person, right? I always had to put myself at the bottom rung and make sure like everybody else felt, like that they could, digest me and be comfortable with me. And so,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And so
Think about dimming
this
your light. Welcome
dimming my
to the club.
light, right? I know, especially for those of us in like like I have Chiron in Aries. So Chiron's the wounded healer. And in Aries, it's like, who am I? Like, is it safe to be me? And so ultimately you can see that all of my decisions from when I was a little kid was trying to fit in, trying to conform, but at the meanwhile, like not understanding who I was. And so, you know, going I always loved astrology. I knew from 6 years old I wanted to study the stars. I didn't know what that meant. I thought you had to be like a NASA scientist or like become an astronomer, which I actually, when I went to go get my music degree, I double majored for a little while in astronomy. And I was like, oh, this is too much physics. Like, I just couldn't do it. But I found the clarinet, or my mom made me play the clarinet. And I feel like just kind of this Renaissance person, because the clarinet was just like something that I loved. It was just the right amount of hard, and it opened doors for me. But also, those doors led me into really oppressive places, because at least in the United States, different from Europe, different from like Argentina, where you're from, where classical music is part of the community. In the United States, it's a very like elite, oppressive kind of hierarchical art form. And so I went to this music conservatory, and just in the name conservatory, it was very conservative. It was very competitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I I graduated. I managed to graduate, but like emotionally, spiritually, I failed in
Yes.
my life.
Constriction, right?
Totally. And I wasn't smart enough at like 18, 19, 20 to understand what was going on with me. And so, I moved to, after I got my master's degree, I was burned out with music, didn't want to do it. I moved to San Francisco because I was really into technology. Like, I'm an Aquarius. So I love technology. I love innovation. I love early adopters. And back
So
in
where
like
did you move from? Where?
from Hawaii,
Oh,
from
you went
I
to
went,
conservatory in Hawaii?
no, I went to conservatory in New York.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that part. I missed that part. And like New York, I'm originally from Hawaii, so going to New York, like 6,000 miles away.
Completely different culture. That must have been a
Oh
shock.
yeah. And it was snowing like from October to May. Like it was just like it was the hardest 4 years of my life. Like I will look back at that time, and I will be glad that I did it. I never think I didn't regret that decision. I didn't think it's a waste of time, because I needed those experiences to be who I am today.
Well, that contrast, right? That builds us too, and it shows us
Yes.
contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I like to remind people like, hey, like there's no mistakes in your life, right? Even bad decisions, you can call them bad decisions.
But they wove who we are, right?
Yes,
They
we
help us.
needed that. We needed a lesson there, right? A learning lesson. Anyway, I made it to San Francisco, and then I got into technology. But at this time, I wanted to go back into music. So I decided to create a web and branding design business, because I could have like the laptop lifestyle and be like my own boss and like have my own schedule. The interesting thing that I didn't realize until later was that when you're creating a visual identity, like a logo, or if you're creating a website, you have to have your vision, your voice, like your messaging. It's like the soul of your business on a website. And I was creating this for people, for small businesses and like nonprofits for like 15 years.
Wow.
But what I noticed was that a lot of my clients, we would build them this most beautiful, amazing website, and they would do nothing with it. We weren't making any impact. I totally wanted to burn my business down. And this is the identity crisis that I was talking about. Because
Wow.
I was feeling the same thing. I was like, what am I doing this for? This is like, I wanted to make an impact in the world, change people's lives, make lives better. And I noticed that my clients were still hiding. They thought they needed this beautiful website, but there was something deeper inside them that they weren't facing. So, like, it didn't matter that we spent a year because they couldn't decide. It was their hiding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when I looked to my astrology chart because, this whole time, astrology was just this undercurrent, this just passion project I would learn and understand, self taught. But when I turned to my astrology chart, like my 15, 20 years of astrology, of branding, I was like, oh, look, here's our business mission. Here's our purpose. Here's our impact. Here's our values. Here's our leadership.
Wow.
Here's our identity. It was all there.
Wow.
So this is where I don't know if I shared this with you, Shakti, before, like if you heard this before, but like it was so fast. Just like how when you took that class, you were like, oh, like I remember this, I
It was like,
remember that.
yes.
It
Yes.
all went
Yes.
right? Like the sound effects, right? It was just like everything started connecting. At that moment, when I looked at my natal chart, I started connecting the dots. A business coach fell in my lap that helped me put together like my framework and everything. A business astrologer fell into my orbit who validated what I saw because I'm self taught, right? But like I needed the experiences of branding, of not knowing who I was, because ultimately, the question that I was solving my entire life is like, who am I?
Wow. Wow.
Who am I without other people telling me who I am?
Yeah. Wow. In a way, I mean, you have that because you said you had your Chiron and Aries, but who doesn't ask themselves that? I mean, I think,
Yeah.
it's the journey of being human. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, right?
Your Aries sun is like, yeah, who doesn't know that?
And Leo rising and my Sagittarius in the galactic center of the universe. It's like, what? It's like so,
All the fire, all the
yeah,
fire.
yeah. So, and what do you have in Gemini? You have something big in Gemini, right?
I
Isn't
have a Gemini rising.
rising?
Yeah.
That's right. That's why the communication and with the Aquarius, this, whew, I'm just getting like chilled over, like this really unique way of putting things together in this Aquarian age, new thought, new mind, new age, new earth way of looking at things, and that power of communication. So
Yeah.
how did you create the AstroBrand method, which is what I began studying with you? And I know you have a course coming up soon. When is it that's coming?
Yeah. June 9th. So the day that Jupiter moves into Cancer, June 9th for 5 days, June 9th through the June 13th. So it's
Yeah,
coming right up. And
yeah, I will
that's
be
what
sharing
I
the
had to
link
do.
in the description so you can all
Yes.
check it out. So, but tell us about that. How does it
Yeah.
integrate the business and the astrology, what you were talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that Gemini rising, at first I was really turned off by the Gemini rising, but as I reframed and chose how I wanted to interpret the Gemini rising,
I
I
love.
realized that
Hold on, hold
I,
on. You
yeah,
just
yeah,
put something so key. I want to underline, bold, and highlight for the viewers how I chose to interpret that.
how I chose to
That
interpret.
is so huge. You teach that a lot in our classes when we
Mhm.
judge ourselves for positions or placements of
Yeah,
any parts of the chart.
yeah.
So thank you for saying that. Keep going.
Yeah.
I wanted to underline
Wait,
that
I
for
should write
everybody.
that down too, right? I should write that down too, how I chose to interpret that.
Yes. Yes.
Hold
Yes,
on a
we
second.
can choose, right? That narrative. We can go low level frequency, high level frequency. So
Yeah.
clearly you had a leap into the high level frequency of how you
Yeah.
started viewing that for yourself.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's talk about that a little bit before we go into the method, because I think this is like the philosophy that both you and I share, because both you and I are in the business of transformation,
Absolutely.
right? Like, I mean, like, let's be clear about that, right? And we know that transformation does not happen unless there is a desire for it to happen.
Absolutely.
We've seen people in victim mentality who are just so hunky dory, being wounded, being the
Happy
victim.
staying in that role of the wound, right?
Yeah. And those are not our people. right?
No, we can't convince you to want to change. You
No.
have to want that on your own before.
Yes. And that's the desire of the choice. Now some of our people, right, they might be so like conditioned from like many years of trauma or shame or whatnot that they have a hard time seeing those different choices, but they know that they want to change. And this is where you and I come in. This is where we come in to be able to reframe and the power of words, right?
Like what you just did, I chose.
I chose the power of words. And so, like, we can choose to look at like a quote unquote debilitated planet, right? And like all of a sudden make that Mars in Libra, right? Like the enemy of our entire chart when like you don't have strong Aries, like there's Mars is not that important in your chart, but all of a sudden you're putting all your energy into like this quote unquote
Perceived
debilitated.
negative trait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so it's like, why are we choosing to do that?
yeah, yeah, I
Right.
love that.
And so sometimes it hold like, for every person, even people who are in the business of transformation, we need our coaches. Like I have a coach, you have a coach, like we have people,
I have more than one.
more than one, right? Because we need those mirrors to see the blind spots. And so in like what we do in astrology also, it's like, there's a lot of fear mongering astrologers out there like telling you that the sky is falling, that the world is ending, that all of these things, like,
Yeah.
yeah, if that's the choice you want to believe in, I'm going to choose this other one. Because even in a planet like Jupiter, it has a breadth of interpretations. Jupiter can expand. Jupiter is like gratitude and hope and faith and optimism and choice.
The
But
great benevolent, I love calling him. Yeah,
yes, but Jupiter can also be dogma
yeah.
and like
Like
strict,
the other extreme.
the other extreme. It can also be like this idea of like othering, like you're not part of my clan. It can be prejudice. It can be like just like it can be maladaptive. And so we have to be conscious of how we're choosing to interpret. And so I want to give that gift of for everybody. It's like, in a horoscope, you'll read a horoscope, and while that's a really good jumping off point, are you going to let somebody who doesn't know you dictate your experience? I sure hope not.
Yes, and not give your power away. And here we go again with this choice. And when there is transformation, and I love that you said, like, we are in the same goal from our soul's perspective, right? We're being called to support others and ultimately all of humanity in this transformation that we are all are. And we can choose to look at it. And that happened to me because my son is in the eighth house. And you
Yep.
helped me a lot to refocus that and choose to think everything is crawling, we're dying, everything is being dismantled, or whenever something is ending, that means there's a new beginning. So
Yes.
where are we going to look at? And can we look at both? What are the blessings of what's ending? What are the lessons? What are the things I want to leave behind? And okay, and what's coming? And what's the higher vision of the same rebirthing that is the result of the ending?
Yes. I mean, that's like a true, like your sun in Aries in the eighth house of like self and identity and choosing who do I want to be, like that Aries energy, like an Aquarius energy for your soul customers. This is like highly like I want to go my own way. And sometimes with your eighth house sun, like that ending and new beginning, it's not just a death process, but that rebirth is like the phoenix from the ashes. Something new is created, but it's more empowered because you chose what you want.
So many times, Leslie.
I mean, your soul chose this death and rebirth, like always continuously.
And you said how you have your Chiron in Aries, which has been going that question about who am I? And I do want to speak about how that is related to leadership and identity, if
Yeah.
you can speak to that. And I
Yeah.
want to add to this question, In my Leo rising, I was under the understanding that one of the layers of Leo rising is that you yearn your whole life to fit in your family of origin, in your tribe. And so I feel that I too have gone through a similar journey that you've described, the one about putting everybody above and trying to fit in for a
Mhm.
different, positioning, but same kind of journey. Can you address
Yeah.
all of that? I know it's a convoluted question, but
Oh no, I totally get it, right? So like the rising sign is I look at some of these planets, and I know the rising sign is not a planet, but let's just consider
no,
it
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
energy. Um, as like they either fall into like our soul potential, like that dharmic energy where we're going, or our soul history, that past, where the karma, where our soul has
Mhm.
been.
Oh, I love
And
that.
our rising sign is a dharmic energy. It's a stretch potential. We are becoming, we have to consciously choose. And so when, as a young Shakti, as a young Leslie, we didn't know how to do it. And so life was giving these opportunities for us to find that way. And now that you know that you're Leo rising and that you are of that, like that age, as a mentor, as a creator, as a change maker, you're like, I am consciously embodying this Leo rising. I am creative, I am bold, I am radiant, I love having the light shown upon me, not to hog the light, but to then light others up.
Thank you for that mirroring. Yes, totally. Yeah.
And so it is a stretch potential that we have to consciously embody. And it's actually one of the biggest keys astrologically to attracting your soul opportunities and people.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't think I had ever understood the rising or the ascendant as that stretch potential. I love that. And so leadership and
The Chiron.
yes, tell me about, yeah, and
Yes.
yeah, like
Yeah.
let's use how that combines. I would love to hear.
Yes. So, so really quick. So in your rising sign and that kind of that one big key, that's something we talk about in AstroBrand 101 that's coming up. That's on day 5. If you remember going through,
Yes, yes,
we start putting together the map of it, how everything works.
yeah.
Because if you're not embodied in your rising sign, your people can't find you, your opportunities
Uh,
can't find you. And magic happens when you decide that I'm going to embody this Leo rising. Magic happens when I decided to embody the Gemini rising. And so all of these different pieces, like Chiron is a centaur. It's a large-ish kind of asteroid, right beyond, like between Saturn and Uranus.
I love
Uh,
to when I learned that how it intersects. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful. And I have a couple of courses, like one on Astrology Hub and one in my programs around Chiron, because I love working with Chiron. Because Chiron, we heard about Chiron as like the wounded healer, meaning he can heal in others what he can't heal in himself. And ultimately, we're all that, right? Like we have this core wound, mine around identity, you also similar around identity about like, is it safe to be a spiritual person? Essentially, with because you have Chiron in Pisces in the 8th house. So there's this kind of like, is it okay to transform? Is it okay to grow emotionally, spiritually, evolve? Um, so Chiron comes, what we forget is that Chiron was a mentor. Chiron taught people, not just healed people, but taught people. And so Chiron is a huge gift when we're looking at our leadership and how we create offers in our business. Because my Chiron story, who am I? Everything that I was doing, little did I know on the conscious level, but the subconscious level, I knew that I was trying to figure out who I was. So I had to learn design, I had to learn communications, I had to learn messaging, all so that I could really speak to who I was. Right.
Discover who you were from all of these prism kind of points of view, and then go like, aha, I can do the same for others.
Yeah, I can, and I probably get them better results than I got myself because I can't heal that part of myself.
And one of the things, by the way, that was so important for me about AstroBrand and also the Star Powered when, I did that.
Yeah, the next class. Yeah.
Yeah. Is how I loved how you build one step upon the other. So it's like, let's send the foundation with this understanding. Now let's set it with this next level and then with this next level. And so it's amazing because it keeps opening your framework of the understanding of all of these pieces that you're speaking about
Yeah.
so fluidly. And I love this thing that you said about Chiron being the teacher,
Yeah.
because I'm plus 60s plus.
You're in your mentor phase of life.
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell that Chiron return around my 50s. Oh my gosh. Like I can see it in my clients. I have a lot of clients 48 years old, 49 years old, 51 years old, like they're going through it.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
like your whole life goes through a major explosion when Chiron gets there. And
For
then
sure.
you kind of either you're guided into helping them or yourself conclude those lessons that are not fully concluded about the challenges that Chiron has for you so that you can really learn that major karmic lesson and then integrate it so that you can truly become that mentor and that healer through that wounding that you had. And because
Yes.
I'm 11 years past that, I really feel the beauty of Chiron. It's like I've passed the pain phase, and I'm like, yeah, come on over, let's play.
You're so free, right? Like I know like people resist, right? Like they don't want to feel the pain, they don't want to feel the challenge, but like when you
Yes.
go through all of those midlife transits, because the Chiron return is the last of the midlife transits. There's like a whole slew of transits through the 40s that
Yeah.
we all go
Uranus
through.
return and
Yeah, the
yeah.
opposition and like so like I did a course on that like with all your midlife transits. Maybe we have to resurrect it for our
I
clients.
think that sounds amazing, by the way. Oh my gosh, I see it. And it's funny because when I set my business, I thought I would call into my field just naturally women about my age and, 50s, whatever. And like 5 years into my business, which is 10 years I've been in my business, I started attracting women in their 30s. And I'm like,
I love
that is so interesting. And these women started saying to me, you have this powerful mother energy that I'm attracted to, that's
Yes.
nourishing for me. And I'm like, I do? And it was like, like,
Yes.
really? It was so interesting, Leslie. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's amazing.
They were going through like their Saturn return and they needed somebody to help them in their in the business of transformation, helping them guide them where they wanted to go and help them make
Lovingly,
those
without
decisions.
judgment, right? But I just didn't know I had that. I think that it was part of the result of my own, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, iteration. So I know that time is of essence for you.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. What time is
And
it?
I want to ask you, I just to give you free range, for viewers
Yeah.
intrigued about who you are, your approach. What would you recommend they begin integrating astrology into their personal or professional development? How would you recommend they do that? And what about what I know AstroBrand by all means is like I vow to that and
Yeah.
put the info in the description. But what else? I know you have a podcast as well. What is the
Yeah.
golden nugget you want to leave us with?
Oh my gosh. There's so much. There's so much. Astrology and like the way this method that I created of through a pressing need, right? Of like finding astrology that can fit our dynamic and multiplicity life, like multifaceted lives, is that astrology is the key to both the inner work, the inner game, the inner healing, the things that we need to work through for our visibility, to be able to speak our truth, to be able to like take big leaps that we all need in business or leadership. But it connects the dots to like the outer game, the strategy, the how to, the strategy that is your strategy, not somebody else's like plug and play template cookie cutter strategy, right?
They tell you it has to be this way and it doesn't work.
and it doesn't work. And so for me, and you also know that, is like the bigger, the more impact we want to make in our business, in our lives, the more people we want to serve, the bigger we want to get, the like more contribution we need, the more that we have to root down and do the inner healing. That every time we're stuck in fear, when that same fear comes back around, you know that that is your signal that you're ready for that next big leap, and it's time to do the inner work, even if you've already done it before.
Yes, yes. And I think that what you're saying is really your forte. This reading of the stars with the interpretation of, yeah, this is for your person and this is for your business. That's, I think, it's the magic in you of your
Yeah.
messaging, not in you, of your messaging.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
lot
a
more magic.
parallel. Yeah, it's a I think that's the whole core of the AstroBrand methods. Like, I'll teach you the strategies, but you have to do the inner work also.
Yeah.
And your astrology is that key. And that key is about reframing and making better choices in terms of how you want to interpret it, not how somebody else is telling you to interpret it, but how giving you back the power. Like you said, like horoscopes can sometimes take away your power because like they're just made for the masses. They're not made for you. And so
I love to say that you helped me reclaim my gifts that I wasn't taken from my chart because I was not choosing the light and the
the light.
gifts. I was
Yeah.
choosing the wounding aspects of what I
Yeah.
was reading.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And so that's the power of words also. And so, like for those of us in the business of transformation, like when we're using our intuitive gifts and our spiritual gifts, sometimes we don't know exactly what those processes or the what's happening in the transformation. And I think that's what the AstroBrand method really helps you with, is getting specific with finding the right words so that you can choose and you can explain with crystal clarity. And so, the course that you took, that first course that you took, AstroBrand 101, that I'm offering again, the last time we offered it in the spring, like 100 people from all over the world showed up. It was, can you remember those classes? They was
Oh,
like,
it's amazing.
it
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah.
And so I'm offering it again. And AstroBrand 101 is really truly the gateway into the whole entire AstroBrand method, which covers the positioning, which you've gone through, Shakti, which is like sets your foundation of
Yeah.
what, why, how you do things, who your soul customers are. But there's a whole nother like part, like there's a giant library of like your voice, like your messaging, your style, and your
The
visual
archetypes,
identity,
that was amazing.
the archetypes. There's the Chiron class, which helps you like map out your offers. I mean, there's like a whole world
The world.
in there.
The world.
And the AstroBrand method, even if you know how to read astrology, this is not like any other astrology. This, even if you know the signs, aspects, all of this is going to reframe this so that you can really see that intersection of leadership and inner awakening. And so
For
it's
me,
my signature course, and I love it so much.
it's amazing because it gave me also a lot of confirmation. Explained
Yes.
to me who my ideal client was through that descendant and all that playing there. For me, it was like, really? I mean, like, I intuited that was the case, but the clarity that came through from that interpretation was like, wow. So, yeah, amazing, amazing. And because yeah, with your experience, your life journey, you're claiming all of the aspects of your uniqueness. What's a golden nugget you can leave us with?
Yes. So I think if we just go back to what we said earlier, right? That what I wrote down, how I choose, you get to choose, and let your choice be a choice of joy and desire.
Yeah, ooh, that's sensual. Yes, let your choice be, and also claim it. Claim your power. Don't give your power away, right? As you
Yes.
choose, as you make that choice. Leslie, it's been so fun and wonderful. Thank you for being here, for shining bright so I could see you so brightly and clearly. And thank you for the gifts you bring to the world and for all
Oh
of
my
us to really be able to shine as well.
Thank you, Shakti, for having me here. And to all the listeners, just thank you for your time. It's just such a pleasure to talk about astrology.
Yeah, thank you for being here as always. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so now so that you get all the notifications when new videos come up. And thank you for being here and being a listener and leaving your comments with us. So much love and blessings for everybody in these amazing times. Bye, everybody.